Hello and welcome to today's news on Vanguard Live. My name is Damnola Ogunshaki. Let's move straight to the front pages of the dailies. I'm starting with Vanguard. Vanguard is leading with pull army out of Okuama, all the Delta Bayelsa communities. You can see that on page 5. To relieve tense situation in the oil region, want whoever killed or stole arms, ammunition from soldiers to quickly return them. Army urges cooperation of communities to recover stolen rifles as Robo Youth appeal against Odi experience in Okuama. IYC denies alleged plans to attack military facilities and locations. Oral forest ambush. Delta police nabbed 3 suspected killers of officers. You can see that story on page 12 and other stories on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. And here there's a picture with a rider that says Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf of Kano State supporting Hahaji at Aliko Dangote to distribute 120,000 bags of 10 kg rice to Kano residents at the government house last Saturday. Onga, Kano Governor hails Dangote on palliatives to residents. You can see that on page 9. Sarah to Tinubu, emulate OT, obey court judgment, stopping pensions to ex-governors. You can see that on page 9. On page 20, manufacturers, forex losses rise at 566% to 792 billion naira. Respite other way as Naira threatens. Edo Guba, INEC ends nomination of candidates to unveil list today. Akwata Obedient Movement disagree over Labour Party primaries. Exercise was cash and carry. Obedient Movement is saying that Labour Party conducted a best primary. That's according to Akwata. You can see that story on page 11. And according to Wayne Lakenfa, the sin Senator Ningi seems to have committed is that having been invited to the table, he did not observe the ethics that you do not talk while eating. Appoint a foreign coach, face lawsuit that's coming from Okuama. You can see that on page 31. Sport and stories above the banner. Monday interview. Father alias a shocking revelation. In Benue, we had more ghost school workers than real ones. How we saved billions of naira and disclose why he left priesthood for politics. You can see that on page 14. And lastly, on Vanguard newspaper, how 137 Kuraga school children, teachers were rescued. That's according to the DHQ. You can see that on page 27 of Vanguard newspaper. Away from there, we move to the Punch. Punch is leading with Kaduna abductions. Federal government plans a school safety corps as 137 pupils regain freedom. Tinubu vows to end the student abduction. NSCDC to train school safety corps personnel. Kaduna Governor hails President. Military puts pupils abducted at 137, says the teacher sick. You can see that on page 2. And the stories below, grieving families, friends demand justice for slain Delta corps. You can see that on pages 4 and 5. Olubadan, Olakule's enshrinement process begins Tuesday. You can see that on page 3. Palm Sunday, Gaza Christians seek peace. Pope mourns 137 Moscow victims. You can see that on page 8. And the stories above the banner. We have Julius Berger, MTN top as capital market. This is at 248 billion naira. Lastly, on Punch newspaper, federal government plans joint cable protection. Disruptions linger in 6 countries. You can see that on page 6. And the Guardian this morning is leading with living wage negotiations hobbled by debt, poor executions in state. You can see that on page 6. And on page 7, crisis looms in Ondo APCs as elders insist on preferred governorship aspirant. Insecurity, Tinubu's government has failed. Enough is enough, says the Northern elders. Operators begin final disconnection of unlinked SIMs. Many fear death, 15 houses raised as youth clash in Plateau. Resident battle hunger over Okuama military crisis. And the nation is leading with Tinubu pledges safer schools after rescue of Kaduna pupils. DHQ to hand over 137 Kuraga school children today. Teacher dies in captivity. All of the 137 children are safely back. Any other figure is a figment of imagination. That's according to the governor. You can see that on page 7. And here, OTOB leadership talks to deepens the Labour Party crisis. You can see that on page 4. Federal government to revamp 42 youth centers in battle against unemployment. That can be seen on page 4 still. Stories above the banner. Who gets Ondo APC governorship tickets? See analysis on page 29. How to tackle national debt challenge by experts. You can see that on news page 4. President Oke's low-key birthday. Dangote votes 15 billion naira for food palliative. And lastly, on the Nation newspaper, NASU, SANO, and the strike. You can see that still on page 3 of the Nation newspaper. And that's all we have on the front pages of the dailies this morning. Join us after the break for the analysis. Welcome back. If you are just joining me, this is Today in the News on Vanguard Live. My name is Damola Ogunshaki. Joining us to analyze the front pages of the dailies this morning is Mr. Ali Mohammed. He's the CEO of Markets Communications, former editor of Daily Times and Concord newspaper. Good morning, Mr. Ali.
Good morning, Damola. How are you?
Very fine, thank you for joining us. Let's go straight to the front pages of the dailies this morning. I was still talking about Okuama. And monarchs, retired security officers, clerics and activists in the Niger Delta yesterday urged the federal government to direct the army to withdraw its siege to the embattled Okuama community to avert losses of more lives and douse the tension in the oil region. What do you think about it?
I'm laughing. You see, all over the world, no country allow her soldiers to be killed anyhow. Even within the country, whoever is responsible for such an act will pay heavily for it. We've had a similar incident in Nigeria, in Odi, also in Niger Delta. The place was brought down, it was leveled completely. We have the same situation in Zakibiam in Benue State, where I think one or two soldiers were killed. The entire Zakibiam was brought down. That is usually the consequences of people attacking and killing soldiers in any part of the world. It is unfortunate that this is happening now. But the leaders that are pleading with government to stop the activities of these soldiers in their area should have cautioned their warlords that killed the soldiers. When you have a bad child and the child is not cautioned, this is the consequences of having a bad child doing evil without being cautioned. Now they are facing the consequences, and don't forget that the president is the commander-in-chief. In a speech, he said the perpetrators of the evil acts should be fished out by all means. That was an express approval for a military action in that region. It is unfortunate that a lot of people who didn't know anything about what happened are being killed and maimed. But it should serve as a lesson to all communities in Nigeria not to touch soldiers with the longest pole when they are out on operation. You don't kill soldiers anyhow.
According to the to retired wing commander, he advised that they should not use military in the wrong way, that they are using the military very, very carelessly. And he said that because military is not made to make peace, and even if they make peace, they will kill people to make that peace. And according to you, for those for the weapons that they've lost, that his advice is that the perpetrators should make sure they return the weapons.
He's saying the same thing. The perpetrators, which perpetrators? Their own boys. And so how will they get the perpetrators if there is no military action in the place? See, talking about using military in the wrong way, you know the high level of bunkering going on in that region. I have been privileged to fly in an helicopter with a very top government official in this country to the Niger Delta region, the level of bunkering going on there, the level of lawlessness going on there can never be curtailed by the police. It can never be curtailed by the DSS, but the military. I'm telling you from what I saw. Cash in dollars exchanging hands on the high seas. The country is bleeding. The country is losing money through all this illegal bunkering and terrible activities of the Niger Delta boys. And they brought in the soldiers to check their excesses. Those soldiers were killed. Officers, senior officers, a lieutenant colonel. Do you know what it takes to train a lieutenant colonel in the army? He was slaughtered like a goat and his body thrown into the sea. And you want the soldiers to take that lightly? No. They will do everything they can do, including bringing down that city to achieve their aim or to pay back those who did that evil, those who committed that evil act. So it's not as if I'm supporting that action. It is what I know.
So how best do you think these people can return this weapon without being identified by this?
They should go to the, you see, the problem is that whoever comes out with the weapons will also be arrested, and that's why they are all running away from coming out. So those people who are with the weapons should submit themselves for arrest and punishment. Without that, those soldiers won't go. Because if you listen to the speech, to the press release issued by the president, he said they should do all within their powers to get the culprits. And they are doing all within their powers to get the culprits. So what are we talking about? The wing commander should know better than ordinary citizens. And he should have educated his people against killing soldiers. An old woman who had 3 children as senior officers in the army was mourning those who has many children in the army, said she has lost 3 of them. How do you want that woman to feel? Now they are talking about military action. They called for the military action. It is absolutely in order until there is sanity in that area. So I'll be surprised if there is a house still standing in that village where the soldiers were killed.
So how best can the president intervene this?
The president can only, it is only the president that can stop that action. And that is at his discretion. I have always warned that killing is not the solution to any problem between communities in any part of the country. You try and resolve issues amicably. You don't kill soldiers, you don't kill policemen because there is a crisis. Go to the round table. Even in the hottest kind of wars are settled on the table, not by guns. So it's a warning to communities where there are crises on maybe oil or land or borders. They should resolve their issues among themselves without these issues getting to the police, soldiers, or any arms of any arm of the military. It is better because when soldiers are called, the soldiers knows nothing but to kill. So when the situation gets to a level that soldiers will have to be moved in, then the community should begin to pray for peace. But it's avoidable. Why would you have, why anybody have to kill? You want to kill somebody, it is soldiers that you are killing, and you dump their body in the sea. That is the height of cruelty. They called for it, and they are getting what they called for.
All right, let's move away from that and talk about the students who were released. That's the Kuraga school children. So the president welcomed the news, as well as the release of the pupils of Sangaya School students in Sokoto State, and the president commended all the parties involved in the feat for their valiant effort. But the DHQ announced that 137 Kaduna school children were rescued, but it did not explain what happened to the remaining students, as the 287 pupils were kidnapped from the school on March 7, 2024.
But what I am reading is conflicting. In the news today, some papers said all the students have been rescued. Defense headquarters is saying that how many? 137 have been rescued. There must be a mismanagement of information there. But whatever it is, it's a thing of joy. Either 137 or all of the students. I am happy that some of the students or all of them have been rescued. Whatever it is something that one should rejoice about, that at least they have been released. And then moving forward, I want to advise for a deliberate provision of security for all schools in the northern region, because it is disturbing to hear that students are being kidnapped. It is harrowing. It's a terrible news to me and to all parents that students who are supposed to be in school have been kidnapped so freely without any attempt to ensure their safety at all times. We must sit down and come out with a plan on how to protect our schools, especially in the northern part of Nigeria. And of course, every part of Nigeria, because you never can say where this can happen. It can happen anywhere.
But the federal government is itself, they've concluded plans to train some newly recruited personnel of Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps in 36 states, and the FCT as the school safety protection squad to halt cases of abduction of school.
That's a good step. It will be a good step, but they need to be well armed. You know, the boys that we're talking about, these bandits, they are always very well armed. But the ones they are training, I pray that government will have enough money to adequately arm them so that they can competently face these bandits.
Well, still talking about insecurity, the Northern Elders Forum on Sunday, they came up on the president saying that the growing insecurity across the country indicated that the present government has failed to protect Nigerians, and just few months in the office.
Kidnapping did not just start with the Tinubu administration. It was there. It started and it grew to a bigger extent under the Buhari administration. So blaming the president for kidnapping is out of place because it's been there. However, the present government is expected to improve on the security of the country. We must dig deep to the source of funding, and I'm happy that the present government has come out with a list of those who are suspected to be funding terrorism and kidnapping in the country. It's a step forward. But moving forward, I expect that those people whose names and companies have been listed will be arrested and tried at the appropriate court. One name that is missing is the name of Sheikh Gumi. I don't know who is afraid of Gumi. You saw a statement by a woman who is a mother of some of the students that were kidnapped, that they went to Gumi to help them negotiate. They gave him 80 million or 800,000. He told them that was money for transport. I am surprised that government is not responding or reacting to that allegation. Who is Gumi? Gumi is just an ordinary person in the country. He should be invited by the DSS for interrogation. Some people have not done what Gumi has done, and they are with the DSS for 24 hours and 365 days or more now. So I think it is time this government should invite Gumi to state his own side. He came out with a statement that kidnapping in Nigeria will not abate except the government negotiate with kidnappers. If it is true that he said that, I think he should be invited for interrogation to expatiate further.
Why do you think governments have not invited him? I mean, it's not this present government, right from the previous government.
You may say because the head of state then was from the north, but we have a president who is not from the north. And that president is supposed to do the right thing by subjecting anybody, a Nigerian or a non-Nigerian, who makes statements that needs to be verified about kidnapping and terrorism in Nigeria. And Gumi has done that. I think it is in order for the present government to invite him to shed light on the statements that he has made. It is very, very important. Otherwise, we may not get to the root of kidnapping and banditry in this country.
Yeah, so talking about the list you mentioned, do you think this government will go ahead with punishing or investigating these people that
I think so. If they won't do it, I'm sure they won't release that list. I expect that by now, all the people whose names and companies were listed and published should have been arrested by the DSS. Because if you publish their names and you have not arrested them, that means they can leave the country anytime. Because nobody wants to go through the processes of investigation and detention. So I expect that by now they will all have been arrested. Those who have not been arrested should be declared wanted. That is the way forward. Because you can, as the situation today is that people are afraid to move from one part of the country to another. From Lagos, Lagosians don't want to go to the north. They don't want to go to the east because of the killings taking place there. Is Nigeria still one country? If I am afraid to go to the east, I'm afraid to go to the north. I have a job to do in the north, and I'm afraid to go to Kaduna, for instance. Even Abuja is not safe. So, adequate steps must be taken to ensure safety in all parts of the country. The president is not only the president of Abuja or Lagos. No, he should take the bold step of investigating all those whose names are on the list published last week. And that will reassure Nigerians that he is ready to tackle terrorism and banditry.
All right, let's talk about the minimum wage. So, as the race to set a new national minimum wage floor gathers momentum, the absence of a documented wage law may have thrown a spanner into the negotiation process. And according to information, 15 states are yet to implement the 2019 30,000 naira minimum wages, raising doubts if the negotiated wage review will not end at official documents.
It is incredible that we still have states that are yet to implement the 30,000 naira minimum wage. It sounds unreal and unbelievable because that 30,000 naira minimum wage is no more realistic with what we have in the country today. If you come out to say that the nation's minimum wage is 200,000 per month, I am sure that it will still be too small for an average worker to earn 200,000 in view of the high cost of living, high cost of everything, including petrol in this country today. You go out with 100,000 to stock your house with food. Over 100,000 would have gone from that 200,000. So we have to ensure that workers in government employments get what I can call a living wage. Because if you then give them a living wage, you will continue to face the risk of them perpetrating all evils in the name of corruption in the civil service. I know that no matter what you pay, even if you pay 1 million naira per month, some people will still be corrupt. But let the government satisfy them by ensuring that they pay a living wage to workers, and then come down heavily on whoever is caught for corruption in the days coming.
But as at December 31st, 2023, the states were carrying a debt burden of 10 trillion naira, which is like 10.3% of the total 97.34 trillion naira sovereign debt.
Sovereign debt. Unfortunately, the state governors do not want to believe that they cause most of these problems. You collect money from the center, you use that money to trade in forex, and almost 200% of the money into private pockets, and yet what you are supposed to do with that money, you won't do it. I think people should hold their governors responsible for some of the problems we have in the country today. The issue is that we have to find out if the federal government is not living up to its responsibility by paying the states their normal dues. If they do, what are the states doing with what get to them at the end of each month? We have to get to the bottom of this matter. Otherwise, we may not be able to find a solution to this. Don't forget that it's still the local governments that are also groaning from non-payment of their monthly dues that are paid into the state government treasuries. Most local government workers are owed 2 to 3 months salary arrears. You can check. In some states, 2 to 3 months. Go and check. What are these governors doing with the local government statutory allocations every month? So we should start by asking questions from the state governors. What are you doing with what you get every month? Local government allocations, state government allocations, both go into the state coffers, and they don't get released to the appropriate quarters. What are the governors doing with this money? We have some governors in Nigeria today, either ex-governors or sitting governors, who are richer than the states. They are billionaires in dollars. So we should begin to ask our governors what they do with the allocations they get every month. From there, we can move forward if it is discovered that it is the federal government that is in breach of the constitution of this country to forward state government's allocation to them.
All right, let's send this on a letter note to Mr. and Mrs. this morning. And the first person speaking is Mrs. Mrs. says he's fond of throwing money at his wife, and the poor woman will crawl to pick it. Last week, the woman threw the money back at him. And Mr. says, as she found another man, Mrs. says, no, I guess that's what they call throw in football.
Throw in indeed. Because you see, when you throw money and expect your wife to catch it, and she wants to try it with you, then you have to resist, because what you are doing is to entice her and also directly or indirectly check her continued loyalty to you. I guess that's what the man was trying to do. And the show of loyalty didn't come, and he was asking if she had another husband. That's funny.
Very funny from Mr. and Mrs. Thank you, Mr. Ali, for joining us this morning. Yes, do want to like and follow us on all our social media platforms showing on your screen on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. You can also visit our website www.vanguardasia.com to get more of our top stories. My name is Damilola Ugoshaki.